Bonjour! This week we're starting Module 2 in our text. We're going to be talking quite a bit during this chapter about verbs, and in particular what we call regular verbs ending in ER, or first group verbs. To start out, let's look at the verb aimer. The first thing we need to know is that the verb aimer with the ER on the end of it is what we call an infinitive. An infinitive is the part of the verb that includes to, as in to like, to run, to play, to dance. The infinitive is the verb before it's conjugated, that is, before we make it agree or match up with the subject pronoun. We talked about that in Module 1. To conjugate the verb aimer, which I'm using as an example for all ER verbs, because it ends in ER, what I need to do is I need to take off the ER, and for each subject pronoun, you can see different endings depending on which subject I'm using. For example, j'aime ends in an E. Tu aimes ends with ES. Il, elle, and on are all conjugated the same with an E on it, just like je. Nous aimons, vous aimez, ils aiment. One thing that you have to be careful of is what we call liaison. In French, the subject pronoun je can contract or shorten down to J apostrophe if the word that follows it ends with a vowel or starts with a vowel sound, or if it starts with a silent H. For example, we would say je chante because chante doesn't start with a vowel sound. But in the other examples, we would say j'aime, j'écoute, or j'habite. We never pronounce the H in French. It's important to remember that contraction. The other thing that's important to remember is that with the exception of the nous and the vous forms, all of the endings sound the same. Il parle, tu danses, elle joue. Let me go back to this slide to give another example. Sometimes we call these verbs a boot verb because everything in this column and over here sound the same. And if we highlighted that all, it would sort of look like a shoe or a boot. J'aime, tu aimes, il aime, elle aime, on aime. Jumping over here, ils aiment, elles aiment. So you can see that with the exception of nous and vous, all of the endings here sound the same. Yes, I know, that's a little confusing, and it's difficult to hear for Americans at first, but it will get easier. The point here is that you need to listen to the subject pronoun, il, tu, elle, so that you can know what the verb needs to be spelled like. The other important pronunciation point has to do with liaison. We talked about this in Module 1. When the word that follows an S starts with a vowel sound, then we make a little liaison that pronounces like a Z. For example, vous aimez. And you might practice saying this out loud after me. Vous aimez. Nous écoutons. Nous écoutons. Ils adorent. Ils adorent. Elles insistent. Elles insistent. Ils habitent. Ils habitent. Remember, the H is always silent in French, and so because of that, and because the fact that an H is always followed by a vowel, we count an H as a vowel. So let's look at some examples of some common ER verbs, and there's a list on page 54 in your text. Adorer. Adorer means to adore. Chanter, to sing. Danser, to dance. Écouter, to listen to. Fumer, to smoke. Habiter, to live. Jouer, to play. Manger, to eat. Parler, to speak. And préférer, to prefer. You can see that the ER here always makes the same sound. Et. Adorer, chanter, danser, écouter, fumer, etc. Here are a couple more. Regarder, rester, travailler, and voyager. It's important to notice two what we call false friends on this page. Rester looks like it should mean to rest. In fact, it means to stay. And travailler, while it looks like it means to travel, actually means to work. Voyager is the one that's to travel. So let's look at some examples. J'aime les films étrangers. I like foreign films. Nous aimons habiter sur le campus. We like to live on campus. There's something different about these two sentences, one from the other. In the first, I say, j'aime les films étrangers. I like foreign films. After j'aime, you'll see that I have a noun. I like foreign films. In the second example, nous aimons habiter sur le campus, you can see that my verb like, aimons, is followed by a second verb, habiter. When I have a verb that's preceded by the verb aimer, I don't conjugate it, just like in English. We say we like to live, not we like live on campus. So the thing that you need to take away from this is that with what we call verbs of preference, verbs like aimer, you can put either a noun after it. I like chocolate, I like houses, I like dogs, I like cats, I like funky music. Or you can put another verb after it. Nous aimons habiter sur le campus. We like to live on campus. We like to run. We like to play. We like to jump. And when you have a second verb in a sentence, that second verb is not conjugated. There are a couple of ER verbs, that is, verbs that end in ER, that have weird accents. Préférer is one of them. The accents change here because of the pronunciation. You can see an example of this in the book on pages 54 and 55, but I have the chart here. You can see that two of the forms, the nous form and the vous form, use the same accents as in the infinitive, préférer. The other four forms of the verb, je, tu, il, singular, and il, plural, change on the second E. This is for pronunciation. Listen to the difference. Je préfère. Tu préfères. Il préfère. Nous préférons. Vous préférez. Il préfère. Hopefully you can hear the difference between et and er. I have a couple of examples here. Tu préfères les films d'amour. You prefer romantic films. Nous préférons regarder les comédies. We prefer comedies. Another thing that you can do with verbs of preference is to add an adverb, like the ones I have here, to tell how much you like or dislike something. Beaucoup means a lot. Bien means I like it pretty well. Aimer bien means to like it a lot. Assez or assez bien means fairly well. Un peu means a little. And pas du tout means not at all. So, for example, I could say, j'aime beaucoup la musique brésilienne. I like Brazilian music a lot. Marc aime bien danser. He likes to dance, or he really likes to dance. Paul danse assez bien. He dances fairly well. Maybe not the best, but pretty well. The adverbs come after the verb in French. J'aime beaucoup. Marc aime bien. Paul danse assez bien. A couple more examples. Nous regardons un peu la télé. We watch TV a little. Or, je n'aime pas du tout les films policiers. I don't like detective films at all. Because the verb aimer means both to like and to love, we use aimer bien to clarify that we really like her. Or something, person, thing. Tu aimes Chantal? Question is a little ambiguous. Do you like Chantal or do you love Chantal? We can say oui, j'aime bien Chantal, which means yes, I like Chantal, I like her just fine. Or we could say oui, j'aime Chantal, which again is a little ambiguous. Do you like her or do you love her? We use aimer bien to clarify that we just mean like. I know this has been a lot of information. It's a longer video. We're starting some new information which will allow you to say and write and express yourself in a lot of different ways. Feel free to pause the video, rewind it, watch what you need to again. Once you're comfortable with this information, go ahead and take the quiz, and then come on to class.